Welcome to Minorities and Mental Health Afterlife. What's going on? This is Conan.
Hey, it's JC.
All right. So listen, one of the things we want to do is we want to make sure that we introduce everybody that's on the panel and our experts that are going to help everybody today. We have Jim Nowlin, and Jim is from the Center of Maryland Center of Excellence in Gambling. All right. Also, Shelly Clark is from Sheppard Pratt, and Donna Bruce is from NAMI. So, Jim, we want to start with you and let you explain to everybody what you do and your title and all.
Thank you very much. Pleasure being here. As Conan said, my name is Jim Nowlin. I work with the Maryland Center of Excellence on Problem Gambling. I'm a certified peer recovery specialist. And at the center, we basically try to get the word out that gambling should be fun. Gambling should be entertainment, although there can be risks involved. A lot of people still look at gambling as if you go overboard, if you gamble more than you can afford, you should just quit. And they don't realize that it is actually a disease and it's an addiction. We're neither neutral or for gambling. Back in the day when Maryland decided to let the 6 casinos come and set up in Maryland, they decided to let the casinos, or they had the casinos, contribute to a fund for problem gamblers. And this fund is set up so that anybody that lives in Maryland with a gambling problem can call the main number, which is 1-800-GAMBLER, and they can be connected to a peer. We have 5 peers that cover the state of Maryland. I happen to cover Baltimore City. So when the hotline finds out where this person resides in Maryland, they turn them over to the peer covering that county. If it's somebody in Baltimore City, I'll reach out to the person. I'll offer them help and hope. If they want to stop gambling, I'll do everything I can to offer them free treatment as far as therapy, free inpatient, free legal advice, whatever we can do to assist them in their journey as far as gambling addiction. We have a lot of people that call and they want to just stay sane, for lack of a better word. They want to be able to gamble, but gamble responsibly. So we will help them set up the roadblocks and the necessary tools to achieve that.
Okay. All right. Well, Mr. Jim, before we give them too much, let's make sure we get there. Because listen, first of all, when we hear peer, we think our age. And so at the end of the day, peers just means somebody that's in the community. If I'm making sure I'm saying that correctly, right?
Correct. Peer is somebody that I have lived experience. I am a problem gambler. I'm in recovery for gambling.
Okay.
So
awesome.
I advocate.
We're gonna get into your story.
Thank you.
I can't wait to get into your story. Miss Donna Bruce.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. My name is Donna Bruce. I'm a social justice advocate. And why would my dog just start at a time like this, right?
You heard you said your name. He knew what was that.
My dog is spoiled. Come back to me, please. Give me
no problem. Miss Shelly Clark, take it away.
Hey, everyone. Again, my name is Shelly Clark. I am a certified addiction counselor at the Sheppard Pratt Addiction Treatment Program. We're located right on the Towson campus, right on Charles Street. A lot of people don't know that we are there. Okay, so we're at 6501 North Charles Street, and that is the Towson campus. Also, I am a certified peer recovery specialist. I just want to add, for those of you who are listening who do not know what a certified peer recovery specialist is, a peer recovery specialist are people with lived experience who've been through situations that's similar to those that they support. Peers offer several types of support: mental health support, recovery support. We help break down the barriers that obstruct individuals to achieve a successful outcome. Okay.
All right.
I also want to add, this is like my hallmark in my career. Most, if not all, hospitals have peer recovery specialists in their emergency department administering a model called SBIRT. And I was the very first SBIRT peer hired when the program launched in Baltimore hospitals in 2020. clap.
All right.
Yes, I was the very first one. Bon Secours was the first hospital to adopt the program. Although it was at the beginning of my career, actually, it felt like a hallmark. It was actually the hallmark of my career. It's something that I'm very proud of, and it was just a wonderful experience. So for those of you who don't know what SBIRT stands for, SBIRT stands for Screening, Brief Intervention, and Referral to Treatment. It's actually a model used to detect risky, hazardous substance use before the onset of abuse or dependence. So that's why they have them in pretty much all of Baltimore emergency departments, just so they can intervene the patients that come in who suspect to have substance use disorder or be at high risk for it.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Well, thank you so much for that. And Donna's back. So Donna, we want to let you go ahead and tell everybody what you do and where you're from.
Good evening, everyone. Again, apologies for my spoiled dog. My name is Donna Bruce. I'm a social justice advocate. I'm a certified peer recovery specialist. I have a specialization in families, as well as a registered peer supervisor and a master educator, senior cosmetologist. And all that works within the recovery realm. I'm first and foremost, I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor of rape. I'm a survivor of trauma. I'm a survivor of human trafficking. So I'm a survivor first, which in turn has changed the trajectory of my life. And then I became a peer, a supervisor, a cosmetologist, and things like that, because it's healing through art. So doing hair was an escape for me. I was able to connect with persons. It went on to, when you're doing somebody's hair, now that I'm in sobriety, I'm in recovery, I'm able to network them, connect them to resources in the community through my lived experiences, through my trained experience through the Maryland Addiction Behavioral Health Board is where I earned my certification for the 3 certifications that you actually see on the screen. And again, a peer could be many things. So in this realm, we're talking about mental health. We're talking about addiction. We're talking about gambling. So peer in this realm means that we are people with lived experience. So take all the acronyms and the titles away. I am a person with a lived experience that just so happened to get the education and the skilled training. And now they pay us. So I'm currently with Enoch Pratt Library, and I'm honored to say that I spearheaded the Destiny's Dream Scholarship for students at Mervo to now receive $1,000. So that's through my cosmetology. The young lady that was murdered in her salon, Councilman Cohen reached out to me and said, what can we do? And through my experience of being a cosmetologist and an educator in the field, I spearheaded the Destiny's Dream Scholarship. They are still receiving $1,000 towards supplies and things like that needed. I also spearheaded the most recent peer navigation program, which was a pilot program back in December. Back in December at Pennsylvania North, we all know Penn North, right? Yeah. Ground Zero, Freddie Gray. Persons were going into the library. They were overdosing in the library. They were using drugs in the library. They were having mental health crisis in the library. And the library was not prepared for those type of patrons. And they were having persons sign in, leave their ID, get the key to the bathroom, so forth and so on. And Councilman Zeke Cohen got with the Maryland Peer Advisory Council that came up with a way to break the stigma, to destigmatize what was happening. And so they said, hey, would you be willing to go? I went in. The program was so successful. We navigate them persons to resources in the community. Now I am a paid employee for the city of Baltimore as a supervisor for the peer navigation program. That's just a little bit of what I do for the community.
You said a little bit. You running it up, and I love it. Okay.
Listen, too much is given, much is required,
But this is what this is for, because the people that are here have either family members or their past have traumas that's dealing with this, with dealing with addiction. Some have bounced forward and some have bounced back. So to be able to hear all of the accolades that you all are bringing to the table is the hope that people need in order to hear that, okay, there is some positivity that comes out of this. So we want to engage with the audience as well. So if you have a question or something that sparks your brain in this conversation that we're getting ready to engage in, please do not hesitate to comment below. Our very, very qualified producer will make sure that he brings that up on the screen for us, and we will answer those questions live. We will answer those questions live. Cole?
Oh, first of all, I want to congratulate everybody because everybody is in recovery, have recovered, and is helping other people. So I want to congratulate all of you on that, because that's part of being an expert. And one of the things, like she said, too much is given, much is required. When you go through an experience, it's easier for you to help someone else, advocate for others, and to explain to them what the situation can lead them to. Now, I want to go back to Jim Nowlin, because you started first, and you were saying you are a Maryland Center Excellence. What is that?
On problem gambling.
Problem gambler. One of the things I've noticed, and because I have gone to the casinos, I don't know any of us that probably hasn't visited a casino. Some people think it's an occupation because they watch TV and get misled with this world poker experience and all that stuff, and they think that they can go make a living. And I try to explain to them, because this big casino wasn't built on winners. It was built on the people that's losing. So can you go into that a little bit?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're absolutely right. The casinos are in business. They're in business to make money. The real fact is that if there is such a thing as a normal person can decide, I'm going to go out to a show and dinner with my significant other for $300-400, or we both like playing blackjack or baccarat, and we're going to go to Horseshoe with the $300 because we enjoy it, and we're going to play. And once the $300 is gone, we had a good time, and we'll call it an even. A normal person can do that. Unfortunately, there are those of us that can't set limits. There are those of us that can't stay within the boundaries. And when we go to, whether it's Horseshoe or the lottery or scratch-offs or Keno, we are chasing the win. A lot of problem gamblers in an early part of their life won and believe that they can do it again. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, when you have that mindset, you feel, I don't want to say invincible, but we feel like we can't lose. And if we do lose, we can win it back. Mm-hmm. So you're absolutely right. A lot of people start looking at, and especially in these days and times of this economy, they look at the casinos or other avenues as a solution to their problem. And it ultimately winds up to further their issues in life.
So if there's anyone that is watching us right now, please make sure that you chime in if you need help or you have an issue. Make sure that you let us know so that we can at least talk to you or talk about your issue so that we can help you. JC and I both have been on here, and we've explained some of the things that we've gone through, realizing that the mental health part isn't always acting crazy. It's doing things like sleeping late at night. One of the rooms in my house, my daughter was from, be honest, I hadn't gone in a room in almost a year because I just couldn't, because she wasn't there. So recently I've gone in, but I mean it took a while, and I realized after a while, after talking to someone, that was part of my mental, my psyche, not allowing me to go in that room. So I know that people are dealing with things, and I want them to know that we are people that are dealing with things as well, so they can chime in, so they don't feel like if I call, they might say something or whatever.
Right. Think I'm crazy, because that's the stigma. Persons, I'm not going to let them know that I'm thinking that or I did that, because they're going to think I'm crazy. And unfortunately, it's taboo in the Black community that we don't see therapists. When we're grieving our child. I just lost mine last year. I'm not sure what happened to yours, Conan. Maybe they went away to college, but still you were grieving your child. So it was a reason why you didn't go in the room. But to be able to acknowledge that on a public platform, I just want to say thank you very much for sharing that.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you.
So I know sometimes these conversations can be uncomfortable, and I want to address the women first, and we'll start with Shelly and then move to Donna, and then Jim, if you want to chime in at this as well. The female aspect of gambling, substance abuse, or just the addiction of being able sometimes to shop, which we look at it like we call it retail therapy. But sometimes the addiction could be we get a high from the transaction because we know that we're going to get the compliment later in what we put on. Talk a little bit about what are the smaller addictions that turn into major addictions that we don't pay attention to or don't even think they are addictions?
That's a good question. And it's so funny that you had mentioned shopping, because now that I'm in recovery from drug addiction, you know, my addiction had manifested in other areas, and shopping is definitely one. But to answer your question, it's so many little things that isn't conspicuous. We can't see it. We don't know it exists. Food, people, you know, all kinds of things. Shopping is definitely one. Places. Some people gravitate to places. A lot of times it's something that's unhealthy, or I must add, a lot of things that just stimulates the brain reward system, something that just makes us feel good. We are subject to keep pursuing it repetitiously, right? And not knowing that we're actually like starting the actual addiction. Like, for instance, if you try something one time, you know, and you like it, it makes you feel good, it allows you to escape, it takes you outside of yourself. That's the stimulation that's going on in the limbic system of the brain. And if you start finding yourself pursuing it again and again and again, that's actually addiction manifesting and eventually progressive.
Yeah, I have an addiction to Chipotle, so I need to switch up my bowl. I know that that's something definitely that has to happen. Donna, what was something, because I know you spoke about, you know, that you are a survivor of things that most people we watch on Law and Order SVU, to be quite frank, or something that we've seen on Criminal Intent, in so many different spaces that your life has actually been televised in real time. What are some things that were the lower levels that took you into these areas, if you don't mind speaking on?
Oh, I don't mind, because there's a level of freedom, and without no test, there's no testimony, right?
Say that.
And spirituality was the first thing. My spirit was broken. My spirit was broken, and I had the inability to identify what was going on. So if I can go back a little and just talk about the generational curse of my biological mother being addicted to drugs, and things happened to her coming up. Y'all gotta wait. The book coming out December the 3rd. Wait. But
come on now, join the authors club. Come on.
So I say all that to say that there's a generational curse that happened where my mother was supposed to protect me, but she exploited me, right? So at a young age, I was being exploited for weed from the neighborhood drug dealer. I'm an attractive young girl. It was taught to use what you have, right? So then being addicted to how I look and the power that came with it, and the seduction. And that my mother said, use what you got to get what you need. It took on a whole nother form of addiction. This was before drugs. We're talking about how the brain works. So you have some dopamines that say, oh, that feel good, right? And it feels good when I'm getting all this attention. It feels good when they say that I'm cute. It feels good that I can get what I want. So now it's just a matter of really finding that thing that I really like, right? So suffering with low self-esteem, suffering with mental health issues and trauma, and things happening in my household, watching my mother be abused. So like my ACEs was off the chart, right? So they talk about, if you're not familiar with ACEs, I'm gonna let Shelly handle that. You know, she could talk about that a little bit more. Yeah, and I'm gonna finish it. But I say all that to say that just the things that that made me feel good at the time, eventually, before I picked up the drugs. And then when you get in recovery, you have to be careful, because now church is an addiction, right? So you have no balance because you're in church all the time, but what about home? You're in a self-help group all the time, but what about home? You're promoting and you're speaking. Are you washing clothes? So recovery and your mental health, the whole gamut needs to be addressed before you just say, okay, now I stop getting hot. What am I supposed to do? Get the house, the car, the dog, bark, 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 and you hear our dogs barking, right? So, but it's more to recovery than just stop using drugs, getting clean, or stop gambling, or stop shopping, because if your spirit is not intact, nothing else doesn't even matter, because you're spiritually bankrupt.
Right, definitely. That's definitely it.
About this, and I get excited because if persons only knew, if you just make a decision to come to be open about it, then we can help you. We have Shelly over there at Sheppard Pratt. We have Mr. Nowlin over there. You can come to Penn North Monday through Friday and get any resource you need from me at the library. Like, we are here, we are open, we are in the community, but we don't know how to help you because it's just a me too.
Right. So let me see. Robin said that money made all her aches and worries, hard times dealing with keeping a habit, my habit go away temporarily. So
okay, I understand. Yeah.
You know, money, they think money is the answer. And for those of you who just tuning in, minorities and mental health, life after addiction, our experts here have been through it just as well. So they are here to help you. If those of you that want to chime in feel like it, you can go ahead. Shelly, JC said we're going to you now, right?
Yeah, so she wanted to. So I know that Donna
mentioned answer what is ACEs.
ACEs, yes.
Okay,
elaborate.
Yes, so ACEs is adverse childhood experiences, right? It's a circumstance where a child is exposed to abuse, trauma. I have a son who is a product of my past, you know, because he had to endure, you know, my addiction and my repeated vicious cycle. And that's basically what ACEs is when a child is just exposed to that darkness in their home, when they witness their parents going through the domestic disputes, or when they come home from school and their parents is out of it or intoxicated. I too had experienced ACEs to an extent. You know, I had a father who struggled with alcoholism after my mom had passed when I was age 10. So that's basically what ACEs is. But ACEs has a negative outcome as the child grow up, because if the child doesn't have anyone to intervene, if the child doesn't have like a therapy approach to the trauma that they had experienced during their childhood life, they're going to grow up with problems. It can actually cause health problems. 9 times out of 10, they will be susceptible to becoming addicted just so they can be able to cope their pain. Because one thing about trauma, we need to put it somewhere. Our children need to put it somewhere. And I always talk to young women about that. You know, you really have to be mindful of how you manage your household when you're bringing up these young children. You know, and then like for me, like I always try to encourage my son, you know, get the therapy. You deserve to heal, you know, from what you endured and what you experienced during, you know, your young childhood years. But long story short, that's what childhood adverse experiences is. It's just a child just living in a world just full of chaos and confusion, abuse, drug addiction, trauma, trafficking, just anything that's just
adverse childhood experiences.
Yes, adverse childhood experience is a real good topic, and I suggest for anyone who doesn't have any information on it to read up on it.
Take it yourself, because you'll be surprised of what your ACEs may be. So just Google adverse childhood experiences, and like Shelly said, you know, you go in and you say, oh, have you ever witnessed someone be beat? Have you ever witnessed someone be slapped? Have you ever, and you're like, yeah, we witness people getting shot, or we witness all this every day. So now we're talking about vicarious trauma, something that particularly happened to you, but something that you witness on the street that you don't even realize that you're taking on yourself. So that affects our mental health.
And I also want to add to what Donna just said. You know, we see it in the street. It's just prevalent. It's all over the place. But the sad part about it is trauma is actually becoming a norm. You know, when people endure the trauma, when people is just like being the ones who given, you know, the bad experience to someone else, it's like a badge of honor. People just like to inflict pain. And it just actually became a social norm, unfortunately.
Well, one of the things that you guys said that I can attest to, and my mom won't mind me talking about this because I'm sure she's probably watching, but she's 29 years clean, but she used to, you know.
Shout out to mom. Wait.
And she just told her story as well, but because of what I do, some of the stuff, I never talked about it. And that's one of the reasons why I'm probably so private about my life, because of things that I went through that I didn't think other people may have been experiencing. My mom, she used to drink till she passed out, or just, you know, but she was just talking to me today about some of the stuff that she goes through, and you know, what her sister talks to her about, and, you know, burying 2 sons. Her sister was just telling her, "Girl, you just can't drink. You can do whatever you want. You just can't drink or start back." So,
Wow.
you know, and now we can talk about those things, but I know that some people, it affects them differently. And I didn't realize some of the stuff that I was really dealing with in my life until, you know, we were as a family able to talk about some of this stuff.
And that's
Cole.
I'm sorry, Casey. Jason.
You fine. So Cole, you actually said something that I wanted to pitch towards Mr. Jim himself, because both of y'all being the males on the panel, we all know that the 3 things that men love to do is protect, provide, and perfect. Now, my question becomes, what is the addiction like to the job life? And I ask that question because the life of being able to live based upon the financial I can do, and then those that suffer from if they lose their job, or if they can't find their job and their entire identity has been wrapped around their income, and now they can't attract themselves into certain areas. Can you speak about that? Because I know you also were a former police officer, and then you went into sales as well. So talk a little bit about that type of directional change, and then how you were able to not be so, or if you were addicted to the work life and the income that comes with it as well.
Absolutely. Well, first, as much as I appreciate Conan referring to myself, and I'll just speak for myself as an expert, the only thing I'm an expert in is knowing that I have a problem. Okay. And it took me a number of years to admit that and realize that. But by doing that, it's allowed me to get the help I need and to help other people now at this time of my life. You guys were talking about addictions and minor addictions and what addictions can lead to a little while ago, JC. I have a compulsive addictive personality. And if I get into something, I get into it. And I always used to tell people, my wife loves it when I clean the house, because when I clean the house, I get into it, and I clean underneath, behind, up and down. I clean the house. Now, she hates it when I clean my car, because it takes 3.5 hours. But when I finish my car, you can put it on a showroom floor. But
we need to hire somebody for that, Mr.
Yeah,
Jim.
I'm going to need your number. I need your number too.
Come through my car.
That's the way I'm going to need your number. That's the way I'm wired, though. So I found out that's the way I'm wired. So to answer your question, the whole time I was gambling, and I'll get into my story a little bit, but the whole time I was gambling, I never thought I had a problem. I always thought I was in control. And so anytime the issue came up, anytime somebody felt that I was spending too much money, I was too much time at a casino, I just wouldn't let them know when I was going, because they thought I had a problem. I never thought I had a problem. So that's how I dealt with the gambling problem. Okay. I didn't have the problem. So, you know, I was, in my mind, normal. Most people in my mind, would go to a casino and spend thousands of dollars, and if they lost it, go back and win it back, and it was a vicious cycle. They mentioned dopamine. Gambling, once you get into the action and you're gambling, the dopamine that goes off is crazy. They've done brain scans, and they've compared a problem gambler's brain with somebody on cocaine, and the same part of the brain is active. Wow. Because it's that powerful. And a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people look at a gambler and think, you're not putting anything in your body, you're not drinking, you're not shooting up, you're not doing this, that, whatever. Just stop. What are you crazy? You're going to lose your house. You're going to lose your job. You're going to get arrested. Whatever the case is, just stop. Mm-hmm. And they don't realize that you're in a grip of a disease, mm-hmm. and you can't say no. So the way I was built, I played sports when I was in school. So I really never got into drugs or alcohol. Mm-hmm. And gambling was my thing. And it just escalated over time. And unfortunately, and I equate this to like alcohol, if you start drinking at 12, 14, 16, whatever, you have a couple beers and you get a little bit of buzz. You go back the next week, you have a couple beers. You go back a couple weeks, it might take 3 or 4 beers. Pretty soon you're up to a 6-pack. Pretty soon you're up to a case or hard liquor because our body builds up a tolerance. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Gambling is the same way. When I started out betting, I'd be betting for $5 maybe in blackjack. And over a period of time, it wasn't enough excitement. It wasn't getting that dopamine rush I needed when I won $10. So over time, I would up the ante. And then it got to the point where I was gambling for more money than I can afford, to say the least, but it wasn't about the money. If somebody saw what I was gambling for, they would think that I was greedy, that I was trying to get rich. They would think that this, but the fact was I was playing for the action. I was playing for what it did to my mind. It didn't matter how much I won, because it would have never been enough. And I know that now. The whole time I was gambling, never entered my mind. The whole time I was gambling, I never had a problem. But it's in a disease, and I'm going to go a little bit off track. One of the things we do at the center is we go around to different facilities, whether it's alcohol, drugs, or anybody with an addict or a problem, and we do free presentations as part of the center. And when we tell them about the gambling issues and what can happen, a lot of people with addictions will get their addiction of choice, whether it's alcohol, drugs, or whatever, under control, and they'll go into something else because that's how we're built. So a lot of people would get their drugs under control, and they'll wind up at the track, and they'll wind up losing their money because they get that same rush from gambling. So when we do presentations, we get a lot of people that are in these programs that the little light bulb will go off, and they can see themselves doing this and realize that, yeah, it is a problem. It can be a problem. So that's really what we're trying to do is bring awareness. But to really quickly get back to your question as far as working, once I realized, well, let me put it this way. I didn't realize. I lost my job. I lost everything. I had to do something else as a living because of the financial crater that I caused. Wow. Again, I'm an addictive person. I put everything into work. And Donna mentioned a little while ago, recovery is about a balance. Recovery is about living a different lifestyle and enjoying life and spending time with your family. Well, when I blew up my job as a police officer and I wound up with another job in sales and everything else, I worked 60, 70, 80 years. I worked, and that's what I did. When it was crazy at work, I looked at that as that was my penance for what I had done about losing my job. So I just worked to try to keep out of trouble and keep on the narrow and try to rebuild or get some hope that I would be better one day from what I had done. But we, as a male, we want to provide. Absolutely. And I'll say I do, but it was very humbling when my life fell apart gambling because my wife put me on allowance. I started out not making a whole lot of money or anything. I was on a budget, and it wasn't easy.
That's a good woman.
took a big hit to my ego, but you're absolutely right, man. Absolutely right.
Well, one of the things I'll say, Jim, is congratulations to you, first of all. All right. I want to
Yeah.
say that. And with the question that JC asked, you know, my situation was a little different because I've never had or allowed a woman to help me pay bills or anything through all the stuff that I had been through. I've always paid for everything. My thing now was, though, I became more private, and I try to do surprises for people because I used to do that for my daughter all the time. I would just surprise my daughter. I'd say, hey, you want to take a ride today? And we'll end up in New York, or we'll end up at King's Dominion, or we'll end up someplace that was Shenandoah Valley, or someplace that was a surprise for her, you know. And I realized some people don't necessarily want that, you know, and that's one of the things I've tried to adjust to, especially after not having a job for a minute. I hoard my money. I'm not even going. That's my problem. I got, you know, my accounts and stuff. I act like I don't have as much, but if I feel like spending, I'll spend. Mm-hmm. So I mean, with JC said, I mean, I just wanted to share that because of what Jim was talking about. If I could, real quick, I want to read some of these comments because somebody named Frank Williams says, "I love you, Mama." So whoever Frank is, Frank said, "No matter what, you are always my mama, and I love you." So that must be.
That's that. I knew who it was exactly when he was talking. Yep.
Denise said, "My daughter has mental issues and is addicted. How do I get her to take advantage of many of these programs, and how are they available?" If someone wants to speak to her on that, and then we can read a couple more.
Well, Enoch Pratt has an open door policy. Pennsylvania North Avenue, Monday through Friday. She could walk straight into the library and ask to speak to a peer. And then we support her in a private, confidential environment. And unfortunately, we won't disclose to mom what's happening. So it's kind of like that person has to want it. As bad as I wanted it for my son, and I'm in the industry and I'm in the field, they still found him unresponsive near the library where I work every day, right? So that's why I'm passionate about helping Penn North area. But if you send her there, you have someone who's passionate. That's going to help her. You have Shelly, who's passionate, if you send her to Sheppard Pratt. And ask specifically for us. You hear us on the radio, I know I'm a supervisor, so you can ask for me. And I'm sure Nowlin and Shelly, you can ask for them as well, because that's why we're here, to bring help to the community.
Yes, and Conan, I also want to add, in response to Ms. Williams, if there is ever a time that your daughter is experiencing a crisis, or she is presenting in a way that is not like her normal baseline, and you suspect that she may be experiencing a crisis, we have 988. 988 is the new 911. 911 is for a catastrophic event, an emergency. 988 is the mental health 911. So you can call that number. And again, thank you, Donna. Sheppard Pratt has an awesome mental health team. And even at our treatment facility, we have a multidisciplinary team who coordinate an effort to work with the client, because when it comes to treatment, we're treating the whole, the bio, the psychosocial. We're treating all of that. We're not necessarily treating the problem that you may come to the table and speak on. You know, we do an assessment. We have to find out what areas that we need to target. We need to know what you're not telling us. We need to know if you're trauma. But again, come to Sheppard Pratt. The telephone number is at the bottom. Just call that number and ask to be transferred to the mental health department. For substance abuse, you can be asked to be transferred to the addiction treatment clinic. But don't forget about that 988.
Okay, so I have a slew of numbers. I'm not going to do this. I'm not, because it'll take up the whole show. But again, along with the 988 number. If she's in Baltimore County, and again, thank you, Shelly, for bringing that. If she's experiencing crisis, meaning that she's going to harm herself or harm someone else, yes, you're going to dial 988. If she's in the middle of, you have to dial 911. So 911 actually has a trauma. They have a trauma task force in the police department.
Crisis intervention unit.
Yeah, but it's only one.
So now, I apologize for cutting you off, but we've seen on the news and lots of instances where they are called because that's something that they do have to work on. And if they're Mr. Jim, you and your colleagues, your past colleagues, when someone has a mental issue, they don't differentiate between the mental issue or a crime being committed sometimes. Instead of saying, this person isn't crazy, this person really has something going on, like Antonio Brown. People in the NFL said something about Antonio Brown, and I use him as a great analogy. He just really has something going on up here.
What is it? Yep.
You know, and when they call that 911, I would worry. I mean, you know,
it's more nerve-wracking now than ever.
Show up. And if the person that's dealing with the mental crisis at that point lunges towards them because they're off balance or something, or they're, you know, in all of us, we have that pH. When our pH is off balance, we do stuff that we don't remember, or we do stuff because it's instinctive. Somebody coming to me, I might just jump back and they think I'm ready to attack them.
Right. And that's that. Is that the
So I've said that to say, you know, with this 911, what is the protocol? Because do they have a special unit, or are they sending out regular police officers that aren't specifically trained in that area to deal with that?
Well, as Donna said, they have one unit right now. That's a crisis intervention unit. One unit right now, and it's a starting point. And they're
that's
building.
In the world, or that's in the state of Maryland?
That's in Baltimore.
That's in Baltimore.
Okay.
So the Elijah Cummings Healing City Act. So now I'm going to switch my hat and put on my social justice hat.
Put it on.
Put it on.
All right.
I got my wig on too. It's nice and smooth. Y'all see that lace front?
Don't pull it too hard. I want it to come off.
So they have one. So they have Baltimore Crisis Response, and they just came out with the 988 number. But in lieu of all that, Elijah Cummings, before he passed, wanted to do a trauma-informed state of Maryland. And he charged Councilman Zeke Cohen to do this trauma-informed. Last year it was passed into law. So Douglas had the shooting at the high school with the young people. Councilman Cohen got with the young people. He listened to the young people. The young people said, we don't want more police officers. We want help. Our parents are addicts, and we don't want people coming into school with more guns. So the Elijah Cummings Healing City Act was signed into law last year. So now state agencies are getting trained in trauma informed. So your social worker, your librarians. The library was the first to be trained in trauma informed care practices. So if we can get Senator Jill Scott took it down to Annapolis, we're still trying to get it on a state level. But Baltimore City is the first in any city to legislate trauma-informed practices. So you guys at the radio station, give us the cue and we will come and train the whole radio station on trauma-informed practices. I just put them out there. I did.
That's something we can talk about off air, because JC and I, you know, we've been through some stuff too, just like you guys have. You know, that'll be another avenue to help people reach out, reach back, pull some people forward, and you know, be active with those that think they are stigmatized or pushed aside.
So I say all that to say that we know that Baltimore City police officers are stressed out right now, and they're not even getting out their cars. If I can be frank, I see them every day sit right in their cars. If somebody overdose, I'll Narcan them. They may Narcan them. The ambulance will come. That's a whole nother show. But so this trauma-informed care practice is essential for everyone to learn, and then we can learn the signs. So they're not just acting out. The young boys not just acting out, want to be squeegee kids because they want to be squeegee kids. They're going through something, right? So when we learn to identify what it looks like, then we can get them the necessary mental health, substance use health. But it's a process and it's not going to happen overnight.
And parents, if parents are watching us right now, for those parents that are watching, please chime in and give us a comment or let us know what your situation is so that we can talk about that. Because and the reason I jumped in real quick is because mentioning the squeegee kids, that's a way out of the house. They want to be out of the house doing something because there is no recreation center for them. There's no PAL center for them right now. So them being on the corner, at least trying to make some money, could be dealing with a mother at home that's doing something that they don't want to be involved with, and that may be their only outlet. So that's
or of course, as you know, and Code, I used to be a former athlete as well. Like both of us played sports, and
absolutely,
you know, and part of that thought process is, well, if I can't go pro, then I'm gonna make this money this way, and I'm gonna get my family out of this situation by doing this. And a part of when we talk about the squeegee kids, I always bring up the thought process of you have to meet people where they are. They're not just going to trust you because you have a badge. They're not going to trust you because you have all of these credentials, these letters behind your name. They don't care. They got letters in their name that make up their name. That's how people feel just important as the people that have letters in their name and then the letters behind their name. Half the time we have to meet them where they are. And a lot of times we don't want to meet them where they are because we think that what they're doing is incorrect. While we might have our reservations, they're choosing not to shoot up the joint or kill people by utilizing squeegeeing. Now, we don't condone some of the things that they do, but we have to pay attention to the thought processes of how they landed here.
Trauma-informed care, Jace, that we're talking about. So
correct.
If we trauma-informed, they can identify what levels of anger, levels of fear, level of fight, flight, freeze, or now fawn. Like it's always something being added on to the mental health DMS. Right. I ain't even finished. I've been to school, but I ain't finished, right? But I say all that to say that it all goes back to the mental health. It all goes back to mental health. My son had mental health issues. He refused to address them. He self-medicated. And he thought he can do it one more time. That Friday, I said, I'm done.
Wow.
I'm not doing this with you no more. I'm not paying for another I'm not sending you to another transitional house. I'm not doing none of this. And that Friday, I said no. So for the first time in 32 years, everything that I was telling everybody else to do with their kids, I had to do with mine. And that Saturday, they found him unresponsive.
Wow.
I regret not loving my son in that Friday. No, because I didn't have nothing to do with that last one he did.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, no, Jace, I ain't give him $20. I ain't buy the food stamp card. Look, I'm keeping real. I ain't do none of that. I'm not participating.
And do you think, and I know because we got to wrap up soon, but do you think that sometimes parents are not oblivious, but they try to be kind of invisible, if you will, to the identity of what is around because that's my baby. That's my child. That's my responsibility with certain things. And my question that everyone can answer is, because I probably am the only person on here with no kids. So I know that my addiction was sports. My identity issues were wrapped into it. I emotionally ate. I actually was involved, and I can actually publicly speak about this now. There was a murder trial that was happening while I was in college, and they still made me go to class when I should have been dealing with the traumatic experience that I literally pronounced the person dead in my lifetime. So there is, and I grew up in Southeast DC, so it wasn't the first time that I've seen somebody get killed. But at the same time, it was the first time that I was actually there in my basketball uniform watching somebody die in front of me, and my whole life was already in shambles because I wasn't playing. So there was so many different things that was wrapped into it. And the question becomes, parents that we know our kids aren't doing certain things, how can we pay attention to the signs of that we're actually enabling our kids by, like Donna said, she didn't give him that last $20. She didn't feed into that thought process. What are the steps, or what are the things that we need to pay attention to pay attention to the fact that we may be the hindrances or the enablers to these addictions?
Well, I would like to jump out there and answer that question. In order to pay attention and identify some stuff, you must educate yourself, right? It's not that the parents are oblivious. The parents know when something is wrong with their children. But in regards of maybe like suspecting they may be on drugs, or they may be experiencing mental health issues, in terms of like addiction, it's best to get educated on that. Now you're going to see signs that's conspicuous. They become emaciated. Their appearance start to change. You know, you can look for those signs. Look
They
for
get a lot of pimples on their face.
Changes in their behaviors. They all of a sudden become reclusive. They don't want to be around a family anymore. So those are some things that you can be vigilant of. You have to watch your children. I too have a child who struggled with addiction. Like I said earlier, he became a part of my past. And because I have lived experience in it, I've been out there for so many years of my life. You know, when his chapter had came, when it came time for him to go through that turmoil, I immediately knew. You know, I didn't have to ask questions. You know, I knew what to look for. But for those mothers who don't have the lived experience like me, Donna and Jim, you know, just watch your children. You know their norm. You know their normal baseline. You carried them for 9 months. Watch for the differences.
Jim, I'm about to say, yeah.
We got like 8 minutes. So real quick, I don't want to shorten anybody, but each person take a minute or so to tell our parents and young people that are looking at us right now what it took for you to change, to realize, daggone it, I need help. This is going the wrong way. Because
Jim, we'll start with you too.
Know that right now. They dealing with their situation, but they need to know how you guys got to where you are and what it is they can do to say right now, I need to make a change.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, in my opinion, most parents want to believe in their child. Most parents want to stand behind their child, and they wind up enabling them because they don't have the experience, like Shelly was saying, and Donna knows. They don't have the experience to understand if something else going on here. So they might take the first answer their child gives them, and whether they need more money for this or that, or whatever the case is, they wind up helping them. For me personally, I gambled 30-something years of my life, never thought I had a problem. The only way I got to where I am right now was I had planned on killing myself. I had planned on suicide. That was I realized that I had destroyed my life. I had lost my job. I was facing going to jail. Family, friends, everything that I knew was gone. I had weapons at home still because, like, you know, I was a police officer. Once I decided that I was going to go home and get one of my weapons, I was calm. I was done. I was ready to take care of my life. And the reality of it is, gambling is the number one addiction for suicide. 50% of problem gamblers contemplate suicide. 15% of them actually try it or go through with it. And the reason is because we feel like we've ruined not only our lives, but most problem gamblers affect 7 to 10 other people, whether it's their family members, friends, employees, employers, whomever. So when we go down in flames, we usually affect other people's lives.
Wow.
Well, Jim, we appreciate you, man, and we're glad that you're on the other side of this. And we pray that you stay where you are. So, Donna, and then Shelly.
What was the question? I'm stuck.
Well, people that are looking at us right now, that don't know what to do. What did you do, and how did you realize I needed to turn this around because my life is getting ready to be nothing?
The death of my son. So every bottom has a bottom. Just when you think you're at your bottom, what more could life throw at you? And I have been through every possible thing that you could think of. But when my son passed, some got to die for others to live. And I said, either this is going to break me, like, you know, kept telling your mother, you can do anything but don't drink.
Right.
And for her two boys, it either was going to break me or make me. And I just really made a decision. So if you make a decision and then imply action behind it. So you can have all the great intentions in the world that I'm not going to do this, I'm going to stop. Make a decision, put action behind it, be honest and open and tell what's going on with you, get around support network, be humble and practice humility. That's what got me where I'm at. And where I stay is the ideal state of a recovering addict is humility.
So. That's good. Shelly?
Yes. So for me, I'm going to be honest. My process started unintentionally. You know, it had took stronger encouragement for me to just.
I like that.
They had to intervene. They had to step in, and it was through law enforcement. I wasn't ready, but however, because mysteriously, you know, I ended up just staying in the process. When I was exposed to a whole different social context, which is the 12-step program. And I just saw a whole new life, a whole new world. Now, my family, they were supportive when I was out there, but because they really didn't understand it, they really couldn't be supportive as I know they wanted to. But when I was introduced to this 12-step program, right, it was just a whole different social context. Everybody loved one another. It was people that understood me. That's what heightened my determination. And as I started experiencing new things that I never experienced before, that's when I was like convinced that I can achieve anything that I want, because I knew that I wasn't born or created to be in existence that I was when my drug addiction had ended, you know. And I have this mantra that I chant every day: determination cannot be defeated. I cannot be stopped. I will not be.
There you go.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Oh, we love it. We love it. We love it.
I applaud you all. I really do.
100%. 100%. 100%. Now, once again, we appreciate our sponsors, Sheppard Pratt and NAMI. Appreciate our panelists as well for always being available. Every time we call to do a minorities and mental health session, you know, there's always somebody that says, we're down, we'll do it. Let's feed the resources as much as we possibly can. Dwayne, can you put that number up on the screen as well, the lower third, for the number for Sheppard Pratt and NAMI? Listen, if you have someone that you know for a fact, even if you know where they are, and as Donna and Shelly and Jim both mentioned, they can't share the information with you. But if you know where they are and there's somebody that could possibly go get your child or go get your family members, so that way they can see if they can intervene in those thought processes, please, please, please take advantage of the resources. A lot of times we complain about not having the resources, but sometimes the resources are there. We just don't seek after them because we're too embarrassed and we don't want to ask for help. So this is the way. This is your help. This is your ask. Let's make sure we use that, Co.
That's right, because other communities and other groups of people, they seek the help they need. Don't be too proud to not want to get yourself help. Everybody on this panel has gone through something, and we've come out on the other side. Yeah. And I really believe that the stuff that I've been through, just like you ladies and gentlemen, that's the hardest step I can face. Anything else is a breeze. I mean, the other things that come in my life now, you know, they're stepping stones. I use those as obstacles to step up to the next level. That's it. So once again, we appreciate you. We thank you. Make sure you check us out on Magic 95.9, and JC, let them know where they can find you.
Yeah, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on 92Q inside the AM click.
All right. And ladies and gentlemen, we greatly appreciate you. God bless you, and continue the work that you do for those who need you And we'll talk offline because JC and I are all about doing stuff in the community and helping those that need us at this time in their lives. All right.
All right. Thank you so
Have
much
a good evening.
for me.
Thank you very much.
All right. You guys have a good night.
All right.
Thank
Good
you.
night, Donna.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
So what do we do? Just
I think he's going to take us out.